Hey everybody, this is Bill. Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking college football. We will be presenting our Week 11 Color and Pageantry Top 25 for the Week 11 here in the college football season. What an interesting week it was. We're also going to look at who fell out of last week's Top 25, and we're going to take a look at some teams that are looking to get into next week's Top 25 and some teams that are just below that cusp. That are performing well, looking for bowl games, that type of thing. But hope you'll join us. Gonna take a look at the top 25. There's some coaching changes we're going to talk about too. So let's get to it. We had two teams fall out of last week's top 25. We got to start with Oklahoma State. After getting shellacked at home by South Alabama early in the season, they have been playing very, very well. Beat Oklahoma in Bedlam, knocked out some good teams. They come down to Orlando to face UCF. Now, UCF has got speed, okay? They got speed. They got a decent quarterback, that John Rice Plumlee. He used to be over at Ole Miss, you may recall. Dual sport athlete. That guy's good. UCF, Oklahoma State comes down and absolutely gets slobber knockered. I talked to some Oklahoma State folks after the game at the Hard Rock Hotel, and they could not believe they did not have any answers. They had no idea what happened. UCF destroyed Oklahoma State 45-3. Now, we had Oklahoma State up at 17, but you can't get ranked in the top 25 getting beat 45-3, so out they go. Kansas came out as well. They lost a hard-fought game to Texas Tech. Now, we had Texas Tech in our top 25 to start the season, looked at them as one of the dark horses. They've had some injuries. They lost some close games early. They got nipped by Wyoming, who's a good football team. Texas Tech has not had the year that they thought they might, but they did get Kansas, and now Kansas is in preparation for the Sunflower State Bowl as Kansas State visits this weekend. But Kansas, with the loss to Texas Tech, they're out. All right, folks, now the teams that are looking to get into next week to the top 25, perhaps we've got UCLA. They fell this weekend. They're a good football team. But they just have had some rough luck, but they're there. They're a good football team, folks. Clemson has had some bad moments this year, but they've also had some good ones. I mean, just talk to Notre Dame about that. They've got North Carolina coming up this weekend. They can derail the Tar Heels. Kansas, again, with their loss that fell out of the top 25. Duke is good. They're dealing with their quarterback being injured. They've suffered some losses here late with that happening. Same thing, Kentucky, a good football team running into Georgia and Alabama, and this kind of thing is not boding well for the Wildcats. The Miami Hurricanes played very well. We have not seen the Hurricanes play like they did this past weekend in Tallahassee in quite some time. They still lost, but they're a decent football team, and they've got some big wins. I mean, they beat Clemson. They've got Louisville coming up this weekend down in South Florida. Louisville having a great year. That's going to be an interesting ball game. I believe it's at noon. Rutgers got shut out by Iowa. Rutgers has been playing well, but the Iowa's defense, I guess, is too much for them to handle. James Madison undefeated. Here's Oklahoma State after their throttling they took down here in Orlando against UCF. Fresno State's in there. Texas A&M, they're 6-4, looking good. West Virginia's had some moments this season with Neil Brown. He's trying to salvage his job. And by the way, Jimbo Fisher may be in line there, because West Virginia did not fare well against Oklahoma. That game was ugly. Air Force is in the mix here. Liberty having a great season. Southern Methodist is here. UNLV, another fantastic year for those guys. Really turning heads out there. And here is Memphis. Folks, Memphis is 8-2. If you look at who Memphis has lost to, they lost to Missouri, who's a doggone good football team. Ask Tennessee about that, and they lost a close one to Tulane. Otherwise, they're 8-2. Memphis looking pretty good there. So those are the teams looking to get into next week's top 25. Now, folks, we've had some coaching changes. We're going to have to talk about. Jimbo Fisher is out at Texas A&M, the big buyout everybody was looking at. Now, we thought this might happen at the end of the season, but the Aggies have gone ahead and done it now. Fisher's out of there. I guess with the Longhorns coming into the SEC, they felt like they needed to get a jump on things. Maybe they have a coach lined up already. I do not know. But Fisher is out. Now, Fisher is a West Virginia native, so if the Mountaineers make a change getting rid of Neil Brown, I would look for Jimbo Fisher to be number 1 and number 2 and number 3 on the West Virginia Mountaineers list of potential coaches. So let's keep our eye on that. And boy, who are the Aggies going to get? That is going to be, I believe so far, the linchpin of dictating where coaches fall into line at. So we'll see. But the Aggies, Jimbo Fisher, have parted ways. Zach Arnett is out at Mississippi State. Now, we thought it was kind of premature for Mississippi State to hire him after the tragic death of Mike Leach. Maybe it was late in the year. They didn't feel like they had time to adequately do a search and get somebody good in there. We'd have nothing against Zach Arnett, probably a good football coach, but just seemed above his head right at this stage of his career to take over an SEC West team. But they got killed by Texas A&M 51-10 last week. And that's very interesting. Both coaches from that game got fired this week. I noticed that. That's very odd. But Mississippi State's looking for a coach. Could be a lot of good opening, people to come over there. That's a better spot than you think it is. And they may go back to who? Dan Mullen. Yes, sir. They could go right back to him. It would not surprise me in the least to see Dan Mullen back on the sidelines for Mississippi State, who is now looking for a football coach. Reports have indicated there are a couple other coaches that could be into some trouble. We see Sam Pittman. We talked about that last week over at Arkansas. They're not having that great of a year. We really like Sam Pittman. Came over from Georgia to coach the Razorbacks. Really good guy we're pulling for. But the Razorbacks have not performed well. We'll see what would happen there. If the Razorbacks do make a move, I wonder if they might try to get Gus Malzahn from UCF. Malzahn has a history with the state of Arkansas, so we'll watch our eyeballs there. And now we're getting reports that Chip Kelly may be let go at UCLA after this weekend's game against Southern California. Now, things have not gone as well at UCLA as those would have hoped in Westwood, but it hasn't been a bad situation. And last year, Kelly nabbed that wonderful quarterback Dante Moore. So you got to wonder, it couldn't be recruiting, right? I mean, he got Dante Moore, so we'll have to see what shakes out, see if those two guys are let go or if they hang on. That's going to be down the line, but we got our eyes open because we've been alerted by reports in the media that these two could be on the way out. So we're going to watch it. Some other notes, it looks like Northwestern is going to go ahead and make interim head coach David Braun the permanent head coach. Now, Northwestern's 5-5. No one expected that. So he has definitely got the Wildcats performing way above expectations. So that's expected to happen. We notice that there has been an injury. Connor DeJean is going to be out at Iowa through the remainder of the regular season. This guy is a top-notch corner. He's a great kick returner. He is the heart and soul of that dominating elite Iowa defense. The Hawkeyes are really going to miss him, and we hope he gets well soon. And here's some great news. Dolly Parton is going to be at Tennessee this weekend for the Tennessee-Georgia game, and she's going to sing Rocky Top. Now, all y'all country western folks, Dolly Parton, just an iconic, just a wonderful lady. Gosh, I'm going to have to keep my eyes open for that. I don't want to miss that at all. Dolly Parton at Rocky Top this Saturday on CBS. All right, folks, before we get over to our top 25, we want to invite you to take a look at us over on Facebook at the Color and Pageantry. We do post some information over there, like I've said before. If you've watched any of our other videos, we're not the biggest site by any stretch of the imagination. Heck, I don't even know if we got 100 people that look at it. But we have fun over there, and I like fun, and I like college football, and you might like those two things too. So if you do, catch us over there. We post some material you'll find interesting and some stories and breaking news if we see it. We're not always sitting around the computer, but if we catch it, we'll throw it up there. But join us if you want to, the Color and Pageantry over there on Facebook. All right, let's get on to the top 25 for Week 11. Southern Cal comes in at 25th. They're a good football team. We know Caleb Williams and the offense. I mean, they just score whenever. They put good points on the board, but they really can't stop anybody. They've got talent on the defensive side, just having a lot of trouble. They've already let go of their defensive coordinator. So Southern Cal going to keep on rolling. I wonder if there is some dissension in there. I'm not sure about that, but it kind of looks that way to me. But we'll see. And I love USC, UCLA. So we're going to be keeping our eye on that this weekend. Iowa jumps in to the top 25. They're 8-2. We don't think Iowa's very good, but you got to give it to them. 22-0 over Rutgers. Some better teams have struggled with Rutgers more than that. So Iowa, that's a big win. We just talked about the injury. That's going to hurt the Hawkeyes. But they're in 24th. Kansas State, that's a good football team, in at 23rd. North Carolina is 8-2. North Carolina had everything in front of them, and then they just started stumbling. But they've got an opportunity. They've got Clemson this weekend on the road. They're going to tell us a lot. North Carolina State is 21st. They're a good football team. Listen, they lost a couple games early, tight, but they're doing very well of late. So you want to keep your eye on the Wolfpack. Arizona is 20th. Folks, they started out slow. They took a loss to Mississippi State, but they have just been laying it to people here lately. I don't think anybody out there in the West wants any part of Arizona right now under Coach Jed Fish. In fact, people might be looking to hire that guy because this is an eye-opening situation that's going on over at Arizona. They're 7-3. We got them 20th. Here's Notre Dame. Some big victories, some tough losses, and some bewildering losses. But Notre Dame, they're 7-3. They're good. I really don't think you want to play them either. They could really beat you, but they could also lose to you, so it's kind of strange. The Fighting Irish coming in at 19th. Tulane, 9-1. They barely got by Tulsa, but guess what? Just win, right? Just keep on winning. Tennessee really bombed against Missouri. I mean, they got clobbered. So Tennessee, they got two really rough losses on their slate there, but they can put up points. So Tennessee, they're decent. Coming in at 17th. Oklahoma is 16th. A couple losses that don't look very good. But man, did they lay it to West Virginia this past weekend. And here's Utah at 15. Utah is a very good football team. If they had Cam Rising, their quarterback, I wonder what they'd be doing. But with him out, they have some offensive deficiencies. But they did put some points on the board in these last couple games. Utah, that's a very good football team. I don't think you want anything to do with them either. But here we got them. The Utah Utes, they're coming in at 15th. At 14th is LSU. They hosted the Florida Gators out there in Death Valley and Baton Rouge this past weekend. And Jaden Daniels, the Tigers' gifted quarterback, could not be stopped. He put on a highlight reel. He really needs to be considered for the Heisman Trophy, even though the Tigers have 3 losses. What a wonderful player. What a great game to watch. A lot of fun. LSU big over the Florida Gators. They're 14th. Penn State, I kind of think it's how we all expected it to go this year. They did lose to Michigan on the road. They couldn't stop Michigan, at home. They couldn't do anything with Michigan. Michigan ran the ball right down their throat, imposed their will. Michigan, the winner over Penn State, but Penn State's got everybody else covered, so they're 8-2. They're 13th. Ole Miss, good football team, losses to Alabama and got killed by Georgia this past weekend. Other than that, they're fantastic. We talked about this earlier in the year. You wonder if Lane Kiffin's kind of hit his ceiling there. Is that about all you can do? Is the best you could do? 10-2 at Ole Miss. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. We'll have to keep watching it. But Ole Miss is good. Listen, Oregon State, they took an early loss to Washington State. A lot of us were concerned with that. But to Washington State, then they looked pretty good for a while. Now they've kind of fallen off, but Oregon State has not. They're running. They're 8-2, and I don't think anybody wants to play them in the Pac-12, the final season of the Pac-12. Oregon State, one of the best teams in there, is not continuing to any of these other conferences, which is just astonishing. Here's Louisville at 10th. They're 9-1. They've got a big victory over Notre Dame. But we're going to see how they are. They're at the Hurricanes this weekend. That's going to be a good one. It'll tell us a little bit about Louisville for sure. Here's Missouri. Blasted Tennessee 36-7. Good gracious, that was an eye-opening game there. Missouri looking really good. And they're going to play the New Year's Six if they keep on rolling. They've got Florida and Arkansas coming up. They win them too. They're going to play in a New Year's Six. Missouri looking good. Now here's Alabama. A lot of people might tell you Alabama's playing the best football of anybody out here right now, and I don't want to argue with them. But Alabama has that loss to Texas, but they're 9-1, and everything still remains in front of Alabama. They can win the SEC and probably get into the playoff, and when they get in there, look out. There's Alabama. Texas, they're going to the Big 12 championship game. They're 9-1. They about lost. Now, they've played some close games. They get out ahead and lose. And their fantastic running back, Jonathan Brooks, is out for the season. He was injured. So I wonder how that's going to affect the Horns. They did get a freshman from Orlando Edgewater, C.J. Baxter. He'll come in. We'll see how he goes. He was a 5-star player. Oregon is 6th. Many people feel like they're the best one-loss team, and I really believe that might be the case. Oregon really looking good. Their loss was to 5th-ranked Washington, who's undefeated. Washington keeps rolling. Got the great quarterback Michael Penix, the great wide receiving core. They've got pieces on defense. Washington's very good. The Oregon-Washington collision into the future's one we're looking at. But Washington's got Oregon State this week. That's going to be a very, very tough football game. Looking forward to that. Ohio State, undefeated. They're 4th. They've got the wonderful Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of people touting him for the Heisman Trophy. Can't quarrel with that. The guy's fantastic. What a great player. Ohio State, they of course have second-ranked Michigan coming up. The winner of that is going to be in the playoff, and the loser might be on the outside looking in. Third is Florida State. They had a big victory over their arch rival Miami in Tallahassee. And Florida State just keeps on rolling. They've got a great defense, playing very well. Jordan Travis, fantastic at quarterback, and they've got some great receivers, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, and they got a good running game with Lawrence Toafili and Trey Benson. So the Seminoles are looking good. They got an easy one this weekend, and then they travel to Florida in 2 weeks, and then they're off to the ACC championship game. Michigan is second, as we mentioned. The Wolverines, now they've got all this swirling around. Jim Harbaugh was unable to coach. I don't believe he's going to coach this weekend either. There's still more information going to come out about this. This is you can't really put your finger on it, but it could be really bad. You just can't do those kinds of things. And what is interesting in my view is when this all started to happen, or we can track it back, the performance of Michigan has been documented as much better since this all started. And that just across the board on offense and everything, and even on defense. So that just seems a little tough to just, oh, did that happen? And another thing that was brought up, I thought it might have been Matt Rule at Nebraska who brought this up. I don't think he meant anything specifically to Michigan. He just simply said if someone was doing this, if someone knew what players were going to be doing, that can put a health and safety issue at play. Because if somebody knows what you're doing, they're coming at you and you don't know that they know, and you might feel like you can juke them, but they're not going to be juked because they know where you're going. That could put you in health and safety position. So if that's the case, then it kind of kicks it up a notch in my view. We'll just have to see what happens to Michigan, but they don't even need to be doing this. Michigan's a fantastic football team. They're going to meet up with Ohio State. We'll go from there. We'll see what happens. The Georgia Bulldogs remain number one. This is the two-time defending national champions. Now, they haven't played well all season, but boy, did they hit Ole Miss in the face this past weekend. And it seems like whenever somebody questions them or some big team comes rolling around, that's what they do. That's what the Georgia Bulldogs do. All that five-star talent Kirby Smart has, that's what happens. So Georgia, they're number one. They've got Georgia Tech coming up. They got Tennessee this weekend on the road. Tennessee can score points. I don't think it's going to happen, but look out. Stranger things have happened. But Georgia with Tennessee, and then they got Georgia Tech. They should be on their way to the SEC championship game where they're likely to run into, I think they will. They're going to run into Alabama. So that'll be a lot of fun there. We can't miss that. So there you have it, folks. That's our top 25 for this week. Really enjoyed you coming along with us on this. Do we have anybody ranked incorrectly? Do you see somebody should be higher? Maybe somebody should be lower. One of them teams down there at the bottom, should they be in the top 25? Did we get anything wrong? Drop us some comments and let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Do follow us over there at the Color Pageantry. Once again, if you're on Facebook, we'd love to have you over there. But going to be some great games this weekend. The Miami-Louisville ones I'm kind of watching. Of course, I'm watching Georgia and Tennessee. Going to take a look at that. Southern Cal, UCLA, another great game. And Oregon State, Washington is one we want to watch as well. So, listen, somebody is going to get beat. I don't know who. You don't know who. But somebody is going to. Or if you do know who, let us know in the comments. But I don't believe. But somebody will get beat. And we're going to talk about it next week when we unveil our top 25. So we hope you join us. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.